just for you.
New Orleans has always been a place of haves and have-nots, a caste system, if you will, where the well-to-do sent their kids to private and parochial schools, where the middle class saw to it that their kids got the better of the public schools, and where the great unwashed, the less affluent, and the underclass were left to sort things out for themselves. This panel is going to talk us through where we are tonight, where we have come from, and where we stand currently.
Every public policy has an upside and a downside. The issue is at what particular moment in history does the upside of this policy outweigh the downside? My argument is the upside of these kids getting educated is more important than the downside of the changes that it will bring to the lives of people who have historically controlled the district. And the other problem is, and then I'll shut up, it ain't like these people who've been controlling the New Orleans public school system was getting the money and giving it back to the community. These people are in jail. Y'all gotta understand these crooks. And so it wasn't even about controlling it in the interest of the people. It was controlling it in their interest and also not educating our children. Now explain to me how that's right.
I think the charter concept is a very simple concept, and you can call it what you want, but I'm in the construction industry. I don't tell my superintendent over the project who he has to hire, how he has to pay him, where he has to do. If I'm gonna give him responsibility for that project, I give him all the tools he needs and the latitude, and then I have goals that he has to meet. So you can, whatever school it is, the principal has, if they have the ability to hire the teachers, pay the teachers what they can, it's not money, the money's there. So it's a whole system has to be changed. And while we do that, we need to save as many children as we possibly can.
We're talking about kids, we're talking about lives. The transformation for me, the change in perception for me, was not that I didn't consider any child a human being or any less valuable. I just didn't pay enough attention to what we were doing. Not only what it was that I was doing as a reporter, but what we were all doing in terms of watching the news, in terms of not demanding more action. Because just as we were reporting stories about murder and crime and all these bad, we were also reporting stories about poor education numbers and the dropout rate and the achievement gap. And, you know, I think when I put all those things together, and I spent 300 hours with these guys, and to see Gerald at his birthday party, you know, telling his mom where to put those candles, and to see Keelan, you know, studying with Lynette at the table, trying to get through, you know, multiplication. To sit down and realize that they didn't have, they may not have, they certainly didn't in the past have the support that I did on an educational level in terms of an official school capacity. I cannot imagine that kind of challenge and having to overcome that, especially when, let's be honest, we know what the stats show in this city, we know what they show in this state, and we know the potential for one path or the other.
The picture in my mind, brother, that I wake up with every morning, really, is on February 1st, 1960. 4 students sit down at a lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina, and demand to be served. They weren't wanted. In 2011, 4 of our students sit down at a lunch counter where they are now welcome and can't read the menu. We have to ask, how did we allow this to happen to our children? And so at some point in time, we have to fight, even if we have to fight each other, because some of us believe this and some of us believe that. I believe that it's important in America that we don't have an America where only people with money have the ability to choose the best educational environment for their children. I believe that if we're going to realize the democracy that we talk about, we got to give poor and working class parents options. That we got to give you an opportunity to find a better place for your child. And for me, at the end of the day, I don't care, frankly, who's running the school. I want to know what the results are.
We have a system that's been operating the same way now for nearly 100 years. And I'll give you two examples real quick. One is that nearly 50% of all the children today are born to single parents. But we haven't changed the school system to accommodate them. That single parent may have 2 jobs. The child gets home at 3:30. Parent's still home, gets home and has to work, clean house, feed the children, whatever, second job. During the summer, we dump them on the streets. What's they're gonna do with them? Holidays. That system is not working based on our population, and they refuse to change it.
Tie accountability to performance, and then be able to actually fire those people who continue not to be able to teach kids. It's not a really difficult thing in theory to implement. It's difficult to implement because of the resistance of organized elements in the education structure.
We're not advocating for charter schools or for anything like that. There are great traditional schools, there are great charter schools, there are great private schools, there are great specialty schools in this country. And I think what Howard and Eddie just touched on is the key. Show me the results. You know, we showed you what happened in some schools, and those principals and directors are here. And, you know, aside from all the, you know, the theories about cheating or selective enrollment or all these issues, which are major issues and need to be, I think, addressed, but I'm not a policy guy, I'm a guy with a cameraman. You know, it's been proven to work, and I think that if you don't admit that the system was broken before, and that this is just some crazy, out of control, radical, you know, catapult to a lack of democracy in education, I think it's a rut, and I think it's just been a proven failure for too long.
If you can teach kids how to read, write, compute, analyze, and think, how they line up to go to the bathroom is irrelevant. The real issue is what happens to them in those classrooms. Are they being taught to engage in the practice of freedom? And I would say that if we bring kids out who cannot read, cannot write, cannot think, cannot analyze, cannot compute, we are not preparing them to engage in the practice of freedom. Because at the end of the day, I want these kids right here to be both socially and economically productive. I believe that you can do well and do good in America. And what happens is, a lot of us who talking about all of this stuff about, I'm worried about the kids being treated so that they all become these cogs for the capitalist structure. Most of us who run in that, we got college degrees and we got a job. So my thing is, I want these kids to get a college degree and a job so they can pontificate about what it ought to be like. Okay, that's where I'm at.